Today we are going to be working on the design of our Word Store application. All right. With this simple UI, we'll just have some little JavaScript addition to make it interactive. So you see my button right now, I click, it's doing nothing. So the first thing we want to do is being able to switch between the pages. Now we have 3 pages. So if I click on this button, I should be able to navigate to the corresponding page. All right, so let's dive into our JavaScript file. So the first thing is to add a click event to this button. So we're going to get our add new word button. We're going to access the button by ID, and what's the ID we added there? Let's see. The add new doesn't have ID, so let's give it one. Add new button. So we're getting it by this ID. And we also need to get our practice button. Documents.getElement by ID. And we're going to call this practice button. Go to, this is our practice. It doesn't have an ID yet, so give it that ID. So now this is the 2 buttons. So our add new button, we want to navigate to our add new word page. So we attach an event listener to this on click, and we're going to assign this function that all it does is switch pages. Okay, so now we have here home, and we have add word, and this one is the practice page. Let's call this one add word page, and this one home page, just to make the name consistent. Okay, and we also need to load those pages because we need to interact with them. So if we say home page, and we get we access it by the ID home page, and we also have practice page, and we have add word page, which is this. Practice page, in add word page. Okay, so this is just loading all the elements that we need to interact with. So when we click our add new button, we want to hide this current page that we are on, which is the home page. So I'm going to do homepage.style.display none. That's the first thing. Then we want to show our add word page. So the same, this dot display would block. Okay, so let's try that out and see if it's doing what it's supposed to do. Yep, it's doing it, but we need it to be flex, not block. That's why we are using display flex. Okay, so you see that we click on add word, then takes us to this page. So the next one, when you click on this cancel, you want to go back to the home. So right now we've not loaded the cancel button. So let's add that cancel or back button. But let's see, we call it cancel button. So we're going to attach it to an on-click. And all we need to do is turn off add word to none and bring back the home page. So we need to check that this ID is correct. So this is our cancel. It's not that's there. So we put the ID. And if we run this now, we come here and we click this, we go back. Come here, we go back. So looking good. Now we want to make our practice button navigate to the page. Or duplicate this, and our practice button is this one. So, and we want to turn off the home page and we want to turn on practice page. Okay. And this will be flex. And practice comes here. Now we have the back button. We need to attach to the back button so that it takes us back. So if we want to use one, since they have the same behavior, we can add a class that we can use to target it. So we say back to home, back to home. We can also add the same class to this one. So instead of using this ID, we use back to home class. So if we come here, we need to now get our cancel button should now be get by class name, and we are calling back to home. So this will no longer be cancel button, but let's call it back buttons because it's not just one now. So for us to do this, we have to go through these buttons. And it's either we copy this like this, put it here. What's going on? It dropped. Oh, wow. All right, so when you put this in here, you now use the button. So we don't have to repeat this code. button that click, do this. So let's see if that's working as expected for each. All right, so we use for const button of practice buttons, not practice, not buttons. And can move this one down here. I take off this one. It's simply the same loop. Define keyword. So see the error is gone. And for click our practice, we go here, click back. And no. Just function it. Okay. Yeah, it worked. But we in practice page. So practice page should be none, and home page should be flex. Yeah. Looking at the wrong place. This one is we are trying to not repeat ourselves. So we changed the back button to class. So we are loading it with class name. So we're going through the buttons and attaching on click to them. All right. So when we click back button, we want to turn on the home and we want to turn off both pages, both add word and practice. We want to make sure they are off and we are turning on just the home page. So if we run this, we come here, you see it's working, we go back, all good. Add word, come here, you go back, all good. Okay. So this is our page navigation, which is okay and working. All right, that is our navigations. So the next one, we want to be able to accept user input here and being able to save them. All right, so there are a few ways you can do this. Is either you load these objects and when you click save, you access the values, or you attach unchanged event listener to this. And when they are changing, you save their value in a variable. So, but since we are already loading it like this, I would prefer to load them the same way. And we have very few input field here. So we can easily load them. Here we have ID word, and here we have ID description, okay? So let's load those two input fields by ID. So we say word input, call it word, and the other one is description. And this is description input, okay? So the same way we need to load that save button, and we don't have ID yet. Let's give it one. Save button. And in here, we need to load it as part of our buttons. Save button. Okay, so now we have our save button and we have all our inputs here. The same way we do to these guys, we need to attach an event listener to our save button. And when you click, we want to get the data, which is word, which will be in our word input.value, and our description, which will be in our description input.value. In order to make sure that this data is correct, let's do console log and log our data. Once you click on save, we log the data, okay? So remember your log is here, let's bring it up. Add new words, blah, blah, and we save, see that the data is coming correctly. We'll change it a little to make sure the changes are coming in correctly. Yeah, so that is what we need. Now, the next thing is to save this in a list. So since our page is one page, so it's nice to make a list of words here. And we start with an empty array. So when we click save, we want to push to the list of words. We want to add it to the list of words. Okay. And you want to reset your input so that the user can start typing again. Description input value. So just to get some feedback, let's log our words here after we add to it. Okay. So we save and we test this. Test. And you see here, the test is added to the list. And this is resetted. This was cleared out, and you can be able to enter new one. So let's enter second one. And you see here, the list is going up. And if you enter another one, you get more item there. Okay, so that is working as expected. Now the difference is when we reload, everything starts from beginning again. All right, so if you enter word, it starts afresh. So now let us save our word on the client storage using local storage. Okay, so you do local storage dot set item, and we're going to put it in words. And remember, our local storage can only save string, so we need to stringify our list and put it in there. All right, using JSON stringify. So this will save our data. And if we load this, again, save something, and it's gone, save another, it's gone, all looking good. But there's a particular problem here. Let's add feedback again so you see what is going on. Let's console log our storage. We need to do local storage get item data. words. All right, so let's run this again. And if I enter FF, you see here, the storage has FF. If I enter something else, you see here, our storage have that. You see, this is one, this is second, okay? But now, if we run this application again, and we enter Word again, you see that our storage starts from beginning instead of add to what we already have. And that is very simple because we are always starting from an empty array. So what we need to do is this gets storage item, we need to use it here. All right. And remember, this is a string that it will return to us. So we need to use JSON to pass it. So we use JSON.pass and put in our local storage value. And one thing you should also take note is for the first time that the user will run your application, this will be none. And JSON might throw an exception if this value is none. So we're going to use or an empty array. So I put this in a quote to make it a stringified object, okay? Because you're passing it to pass. So pass will pass this and give us an empty array, okay? And this or here, what it simply does is it checks the right side. If there is value there, it will use that one and ignore the right side, okay? If there is no value here for any reason is null or undefined, it will use the right side content, okay? So that is the or here. So now we have this. So let's try our application again. And if we add food, you'll see here, the first one we entered is there and the food was appended. So if we run the application again and you enter stuff, it will still append it rather than overriding everything. So it's always up to date now, okay? So now another problem we have here now is when you save here, you see that it can save an empty input. We don't want that. We want the user to enter stuff before saving, okay? So we just need to add a simple check here. If our word input.value, if it doesn't have anything, or this one doesn't have anything, we want to, for now, let's add a console. We will change that. We're going to say word and description cannot be empty, okay? And return. So return here means terminate the code here, don't go down, okay? So if we run this, put something, save, it saves fine, you see? But if we have nothing and we click save, you see here, word and description cannot be empty. Try to save as many times you get that error. But when you type something, it will save again, all right? So now we just need to add a user friendly feedback here. So let's add a container for that. So this is the design of our error message. So this is looking good already. We just need to hide it from the display from the beginning. We don't want it to show. Yeah, we have a display here. So let's put it. That's it. Here, let's add style here. Hide it from display. We're going to turn it on with JavaScript. All right, so if we run this now, we should have nothing there. Okay, so now in our JavaScript, let's load the error as part of our stuff here. Error container, call it error. And when the error happens, instead of just consoling, we do this dot inner HTML equals to this message that we want to give the user. All right, and do return. Okay. Yeah, once the user succeeds and comes through here, make sure to reset the error to blank. And we also want to display it because it's not in display. So we want to do error container style display. I think it's flex. Make sure to turn it off here also when you reset. Okay, so this should do it. We come here and we submit, you get the error message. And if we type something meaningful, the error goes away. If we try again, the error comes back. And put in something, the error goes away. So that is it. That is a complete implementation of our add word page. So let's implement this page where we practice the words that we've entered. I know we've implemented the back button, so that works fine. We just need to implement these three items here, right? So the same way we did all this, we need to access these buttons and this card here so that we can manipulate their values from JavaScript. So let's add this to our buttons. So we need the previous button and next. Let's check our HTML to be sure. So we have previous, there's no ID yet, so we'll give it an ID, previous button, and our next will be next button. So that when we load this, we need to attach an on-click listener to it. So let's bring it down here. And when you click on next, it's going to do something here. For now, let's just log next clicked just to test that everything is wired. And our previous button, when we click, we want to print previous clicked. Let's test that out to make sure everything is correctly placed. And Cannot read property null 58. Previous button. We have that, no? So seems not loading this. Let's look at that. Next button and ID. Yes, we didn't close this. All right. So all good. Click on preview. And if you click previous, see that console there. See the next. So yep, that's button as set up. The next thing is the card. So we need to get the card. So right now, the card is here. Okay. I'm not sure we designed this correctly because there's a word here which is supposed to show in our card. So let's take a look at the CSS. So we have a card. So we want the text color to be black, okay? That should bring that up. And we want to make sure everything is displayed at the middle. So I'm gonna make it display flex, justify content at the center, and align item at the center. Right, so let's see. Yeah, that's how we want it to look like. All right, so we need to access now. Whenever we want to change our word, you see here we have a p tag and we have this card. So let's give our ID to the p tag. So you can say content display. So we want it to always be in this paragraph, okay? So we can take this one out. And now if we run this, it should be empty, right? And we need to access the content display. Content display container. Okay, maybe no container, just content display is fine. All right, so let's make the function here. Function that will get word, and we can put in the index of the word we want to get. Okay, remember we loaded words here once our application executes, so this already exists. So when we call our get word, it's going to display the word in this particular index on our card, okay? So if we access content display dot inner HTML, remember is an HTML tag, so use inner HTML. Then we want to assign words that is in this particular index that was passed to us, dot word. All right. Now, in order to track when we want to switch we want to save this, want to save the current index where we are. Where you always start is 0, right? So whenever you call get word, make sure that your current index is the index that was passed, okay? And we set this word. Now remember that our words is a list of objects. So if we pass index here, we're accessing one of the objects in this particular position. And the object has, if you see when we built that object, it has word and description. So right now I'm accessing the word. Okay, so this word will be displayed on the card straight away. Okay, and I want to keep track of the current index where I am. All right, so now for us to go to that page, we click on practice word, right? Now we are going to look for that button. This is the on click here. So when we click this, we want to call our get word. Okay, and we want to pass it the current index, which is 0 from the start. All right, so this is our get word function here. If we run this and we click practice, you see that the first word is already displayed there. You see that although it's not meaningful, but it's something. All right, so you can also make your word to be capital letter. I think might make sense that the content are capitalized. So I can do that here. Text, transform, uppercase. And if you come here, you see that word is in uppercase. All right. Let me open this in tab. Okay. All right, so if you remove this line, of course, your content will come as the user typed it, which is in smaller cases. So if I save another word, for example, of course, we won't see it quickly, but let's see. If I save good, go good. I save this. The way I typed it is the way it should come. Let's do words. To get the last one is words.length -1. Okay. So if we run this and we go to practice, you see that it shows the way I typed it. All right. So we want to always start from the first. Okay. Like that. So now when we click on next, we want to navigate to the next word. Now we have our word being displayed in our card. The next thing is to navigate the words. So if I click next, it goes to the next word. If I click previous, it goes back to the previous word. Okay, nothing fancy for now. So our next on click, we want to implement this. All we have to do is increment our current index. Okay, if you do in current index ++ and make sure to call get word and pass in the current index. Okay, now we need to make sure that our current index is never higher than our word length. So if current index less than our words dot length, now we can allow this operation, increment and pass it in. Our current index is in global state, so we might decide not to pass it here and remove this one and remove this one also. So here we can just pass in current index, okay? So we don't need to pass it as a parameter, and it will work the same, okay? So when we click, we increment, we call our get word, and in previous we are doing the same but in reverse. So this one goes minus minus, and this one goes greater than 0. Okay, greater than 0. Then we remove and we call get word. So let's try that out. Practice. Next, food, next, eat, next, blank, where we saved blank at some point. And next word, next word, next. And this is the good, which we entered last. If we click next again, it's not going to go through. Yeah, it seems he went one more time. So this should be less than -1. Let's try that out again. Yep. So we show the last word and next doesn't trigger anymore. Okay. Then we click previous the same way. Once you get to the first one, it doesn't trigger anymore. That's the last word. So there you have it. Moving through the words. All right. Now, the next thing is to review the meaning of the word when we click on the card. Remember, we have not loaded our card, so let's load it. Our card is here with class card. Let's give it an ID card. Okay. And we come to our JavaScript and we load that. So we call it card container. Call this one card. And we want to also attach on click to it. So when you click on the card, we want to switch. So now we have a function called get word. Quite all right. So we need another function called get description. Okay. And here we are simply accessing description instead of word. All right. So what we can do is when the user click on, when the user click, it shows the description. And when the user clicks again, it should show the word again. All right. But let's try the first direction first. So when the user click, we call get description. And let's see how that works. You see the description, it changed. This is our next word, food. When we click on it, currently the description is also food. The description is ASD. This is the description. This is the description, 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 description. You see, you remember when we type this one, go good, right? So when I go previous, I mean, like this is already good enough, I think. When you review a description, I don't think there's really need for you to go back to the word again, because when you navigate out and come back, is already displaying the word again. So there's no need to do the toggle. But user experience. Let's add the toggle. Okay. So when you click, now you want to, you can solve this in different ways, okay? But the simplest way, since this is a beginner class, we are going to use toggles, okay? We're going to use toggles. So maybe you want to also persist the current state of the card when the user visited the world. You can also do that, okay? But let's not do that one. We want to save last state, something like card opened equals to false, equals to false. Now we want to check if card opened, call get word, and set your card open to false. Else, you want to call your description and set card opened to true. So this is as simple as that. And when we run this, we come here. This is the close state. We click, it reviews the word constant. Let's change that to let, sorry. So we click, it reviews the word, we click again, it shows the word. So we can toggle both as we click. We go to the one we entered recently. This is the description. This is the word itself. All right. Toggle, 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 go back, toggle, 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 go back. And there you go. Yeah, there's one problem that we don't foresee, but when you click previous or next, we want to set our card open back to false to make sure we reset that toggle. So next, when we click on next, after getting what, we want to close card opened, that's the name. Card opened to false. Make sure it's also false when you click on previous, okay? And that is it. We can also just do it in one place here, because whenever we get word, we want to make sure that this is set to false. Okay, and maybe whenever we get description, we want to set this to true. All right, so then here you don't need this extra code here. Okay, so that's some way of refactoring. Try not to repeat yourself. You try to reduce as much as possible the number of code you're writing. Okay, so now we have it just in two places. Okay, so if we run this, let's confirm it still works the same. We toggle, we go back, toggle, go back, next, shows food. And yeah, our food is food, the same. So we toggle, this is blank, toggle, everything works as normal, as expected.